Okay. So here goes, folks. Another session of the book club on Sunday, 5 o'clock. Apologies, you're a little delayed today. Some technical glitches that were experienced by several of us getting in. But now we're here, we're in. Monali is ready, and we are. Thank you, Runa. Please mute your mics, everybody. So this is in every way, really, a tribute to Shyam Benegal, who we have sadly lost very recently. Now, he was a pioneer. Monali, I'm sure, is going to say all this, but I can't help myself because Shyam Benegal has been such an important figure in Indian cinema. You know, the pioneer, as it were, of parallel cinema. What wonderful movies he gave us. And today's is a wonderful one, too. So Kanchana, so today we are reviewing Well Done Abba. Okay, this film by Shyam Benegal, a darling gem of a movie, I will say. A very simplistic narrative, superficially, but raising so many important issues and giving such positive messages, you know. So, lovely movie, good choice, Monali. Thank you for bringing it to us. And now, over to Monali Chatterjee.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll quickly share the screen.
Yes,
Do let
yes, let's carry on like this.
Okay. So, welcome to my presentation. Today we will be talking about Well Done Abba. It's a fantastic, biting satire and comedy by Shyam Benegal. So I'll be talking about Shyam Benegal in brief, and then we will go on to the story, and we will look at what kind of implications it has in the present day. So Shyam Benegal his father was a professional photographer. He was originally from Karnataka, and he grew up speaking Konkani and English, but he was extremely well read. He graduated with economics, but from Osmania University. But even by that time, he was quite versatile and well versed with whatever was available over the media per se. He was Gurudat's cousin. This is not something I knew before. And he worked for an advertising agency as a copywriter, and soon proceeded to become a filmmaker. Now, because he was in an ad agency, he knew how to sort of compile larger concepts into very tiny packages that could speak volumes in itself. And this particular film will demonstrate that. Benegal's first feature, Ankur, that talks about the caste system of Andhra Pradesh, uh, had received a lot of acclaim. Now, of course, this looks very cluttered, but apart from Ankur, he has made many other films like Nishant, Manthan. Manthan is about Amul. Bhumika. Bhumika is a very serious film. Junoon was a very talked about film. Again, an important milestone in parallel cinema. Then there was Kalyug, again a very famous film, and was widely acclaimed for its very hard-hitting messages. Apart from that, Mandi is still watched in the present day. During COVID-19, Mandi became viral again, once again, and people started talking about it. Trikal there are many others like Trikal. Then he was also an ardent follower of Satyajit Ray. He also made a lot of documentary films apart from this, including Bharat Ek Khoj, which was based on discovery of India. Um, you must have heard about Suraj Ka Satwa Ghoda, which is based on a very famous Hindi novel. Mamo, Sardari Begum, Samar. Zubeda was again yet another very important film, and Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Now, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose must have come very naturally to him because his brother was also a part of this ICS. or IE as it was called. So, Well Done Abba, it was released in 2009. That was so many years ago. And as I said, it's a comedy in Hindi, but the dialect used here is typically Hyderabadi Hindi, which generates a lot of comedy in itself. It is based on short stories written by two writers, Narsaya Ki Bauri by Jilani Bano and Pul by Sanjeev. And talks about some very key ideas like bureaucracy, corruption, rural development, and resilience. And the idea of reviewing it is simply because it demands a lot of attention in terms of its narrative technique. It is more theatrical rather than cinematic. And you will soon realize when you see some of the screenshots from the film. Uh, Now, this is the central storyline. Arman Ali is a chauffeur for an executive in Mumbai. He takes a month's leave to visit his village in Chikatpalli near Hyderabad to arrange a groom for his daughter Muskan Ali. Arman Ali was nearly fired from his job by this executive. His name is Rohan Kapoor, for returning after 3 months instead of a single month. Rohan Kapoor has to travel from Mumbai to Pune, and Arman seizes this opportunity to explain his delay while he drives for his boss to Pune. Arman says that 3 months ago, his brother Rehman Ali wrote to Arman saying his daughter flew kites all day and had lost all sense of etiquette. So Rehman has chosen a groom for Muskan and has and wants Arman to come and get his daughter married. Once in Chikatpalli, Arman finds his daughter Muskan really flying kites, and she refuses to offer the rickshaw puller any water because she would have to travel 3 kilometers to get drinking water. So Muskan tells Arman that because of the shortage of water in Chikatpalli, um, her uncle, that is Rehman, and his wife, Salman, uh, stole water from people's wells at night and sold it in the morning. They nearly got caught by constables, but thankfully they were still absconding. Arman reads about building a well. um, so this is a scheme called the Kapila scheme, initiated by the government, and he plans to build a well to address the water shortage in the village. The next day, he collects a form to apply for a bank loan. So here, of course, the person at the bank tells him that there will be a service charge of 10%. Now, although he is a little taken aback, but then since he is quite a simpleton, he agrees to it. He knows the ways of the world, so he agrees. Um, he was told that he would get an advantage as he belonged to the minority community. Now, the man at the bank confided in Arman that he also has to get 5 photographs. Now, because he has to click those photographs when he goes there to the photographer, he tells him that, see, why do you need a loan for um, a, a well? The government gives poor people free wells. So you just have to apply for that free well and you will get it free of cost. So now here, this is the Kapil Dhara scheme, as the photographer tells him. And he also says that this photographer, he is the official photographer for this particular scheme. Now, Mr. Red, so his name is Mr. Reddy. Now there are many other Reddys here, but he tells Arman to meet Balamma, who is the sarpanch of that village. Now Balamma assures Arman of getting the well constructed, but so this is the photographer, and Balamma is here. Now she tells Arman that the well will be constructed soon, but her husband, Janardhan Reddy, asks Arman if he has a 2-acre land and if he's below the poverty line, so he should have a certificate for that. Arman did not have the latter, so he did not really have the certificate. So Janardhan Reddy seizes this opportunity and agrees to accompany him to secure it if Arman pays for his petrol for the motorcycle ride. Okay, so the next day, as you can see in the fourth picture, he that is Janardhan Reddy and Arman are on this motorcycle, and there's somebody else called Narayan who also joins them because he also has. I mean, he needs to get a free house made under the Indira housing scheme for the poor. So the government does bestow schemes for the poor people, but then there are people in the middle who take advantage. And what kind of an advantage the poor people get is what this entire story is about. Arman remarks, our country is really progressing. In these days, even swear words have a price, and people here have free houses, and probably I'll get a free well. So this is how the scene ends. In the next scene, there's this young boy called Arif Ali. He works in a garage and with his father, and he comes demanding for money. And he tells Muskan Ali, that is Rahman Ali's daughter, that Rahman Ali had borrowed money and he is nowhere to be seen, and that is why he wants Rahman to pay up his money. Though Muskan does not know about Rahman Ali's whereabouts, Arif persists and waits outside their house. Now, in the next scene, by this time, Janardhan, Arman, and Narayan reached the Tehsildar's office. This is called the MDBO's office. That's the Tehsildar's office. And Narayan complains to the officer that rupees 30,000 is not enough to build a house. He loaned money from the money lenders to build a house, to complete this building of the house, but he could not repay it, and so his family has been working in the field, in the moneylenders' fields endlessly for a long time. The officer dismisses his request. When Arman approaches him for his BPL certificate, below the poverty line certificate, the latter takes away his watch. He says that he looks far too affluent for it. So the latter agrees to give him the document of if the boss gets 20% and he gets 5% of the grant of the construction of the well. Um, Arman reluctantly agrees. What he has no choice, isn't it? So Arif Ali inquires about Rahman Ali again. Muskan gets irritated but mellows down. This time, Muskan starts liking Arif Ali. Rahman Ali is Arman Ali's twin brother. Okay, and what you can see on screen is the picture of Rahman Ali's wife, Salma Ali, which is played by Ila Arun. Both brothers are, although they are twins, but then they are poles apart in their nature. The police finally arrest Rahman Ali's wife, Salma. On learning this from Muskan, Arman goes and to get Salma bail, but the police mistake him for Rahman and stuff him into the lockup with Salma. Uh, Arman scolds Salma for the theft of goats, hens, shoes outside the mosque, and now even water. Meanwhile, Rahman stealthily comes into Muskan's house in search of Arman. Muskan locks Rahman from outside, saying this would protect him from the police, but returns home with two police constables and her father, Arman Ali. The police arrest Rahman Ali. So the next day, Arman collects his permanent BPL certificate. Now, why is this permanent? We will come to it later when we discuss about the film. But he collects his permanent BPL certificate in exchange for rupees 500 and the assurance for the commissions, that is 20% plus 5%, as soon as he receives the first installment for the well. Next, he goes to the MPDO's office, where the officer demands a deed of Arman's 2.5-acre land from the registrar. Now, why am I giving you these details is simply because one should know as to what kind of red tape works in the government system. It's not like we don't know, but here it has been documented in a very crisp but humorous way. This uh, he would send the sub engineer for a survey. The tehsildar would do that. He also said that Balama had illegally taken away a large quantity of rice from the midday meal quota for that was assigned for children. He also claimed that 15% of that commission um, was to be kept aside for his approval out of 1,35,000 for the well. So that was the total sum that he was supposed to get. The registrar demanded 12% of his commission for the deed. Arman agreed and called the water diviner to get the underground, to find where the underground water was. So once the source of the water was found, Arman requests the sub-engineer, Vikas Jha, to survey the field. On doing this, he demands rupees 500 for the land inspection and verification fee as well as code number 3. Now, Muskan, his daughter, actually sort of in a way protests, why do we have to pay so much? But he says that this is the way it works. If you want my report, this is how you have got to behave. So his work is frequently interrupted by calls from his wife, and this is his newlywed wife, so he's a little too involved with his wife even during his duty. And even during that time, he assures his wife that he will get the official car so that they can go to Hyderabad for their honeymoon and a certain surgery for this wife. So he also demands 5% of this on his receipt of the first installment. um, So Sakina tells Muskan that Sakina is Muskan's friend. She tells Muskan that her mother was taking Sakina to Hyderabad to see a prospective groom who had a big business in Sharjah. Her mother is worried about getting all the 5 daughters married. Sakina marries the sheikh. Arman starts looking for a match for Muskan, but he can't find anyone suitable. I mean, either they say that Muskan does not know a lot of household errands, or they can't pay enough dowry. So Balama hands Arman his first installment of rupees 40,000, but her husband Janardhan demands all the commissions to be set aside first. Once that is done, um, Arman is left with only 8,400 rupees. The contractor says that it is impossible to dig a well with this money. It is impossible to even dig a pipe with this money, let alone a well. But if the well is dug, then if it is not dug, then Arman would have to return rupees 40,000. So the contractor tells Arman to secure the first step completion certificate from the from the MPDO's office to get the second installment. So that would give them some money to start constructing the well. The MPDO officer, the tehsildar, tells Arman to get the sub-engineer um, to um, with a demand of 10% commission again. The sub-engineer asks for 10% again for the second installment and sends Arman to the photographer who extracts rupees 2,000 for 2 fake photos for the first step completion. So this photographer is very good at photo editing. So when Arman goes to his studio, he finds that there are pictures of him with all the Bollywood heroines. and he says that, see, I can do this photo editing very easily. So this kind of photo editing is done for Arman's well. So it is shown as a partially constructed well in the pictures. So Rahman and Salma get released from the lockup, and they come to stay with Arman. Arif comes to Rahman to demand money, but Salma shoos him away. But Muskan dislikes their behavior, secretly goes to Arif and apologizes to him on their behalf. This is the beginning of their friendship. Arman finally gets all the installments amounting to rupees 1,40,000, but also has to pay the registrar, the landlord, the engineer who congratulates Arman for the successful completion of the well. But the water brimmed up in Arman's eyes, not the well, because in reality, there was no well. While Arman regrets the futility of his efforts, Muskan shows that all the documents are in place and reports the theft of the well to the Chikatpalli police station. Okay, so this is sorry, I forgot to scroll. So these are the pictures of how each one is asking for money. And this is when Muskan consoles her father, saying that we will do something about it. So there's this phantom well. The well does not exist, but it exists on paper. And this will expose the corruption. Um, now, the police officer, Mr. Reddy, feels like resigning due to the absurd cases that come into the police station, but his wife reminds him that her father went through a lot of trouble to get him this job. He gave 3 lakh rupees for this Chikatpalli police station posting. His wife is dissatisfied because he can't bring additional comforts to their house with some extra income like other people do. So this is the wife of this police officer. And you can see Rajit Kapoor on screen. On the occasion of Eid, um, Arman and Rahman forget their differences and unite. Muskan returns Rahman's dues as Eid gifts to Arif. So whatever money had been required by Arif is now has now come back to him. Um, Arman catches Muskan talking to Arif over the phone, and he feels a little worried. Arif advises Muskan to get an RTI Act, get information under RTI Act from the MPDO office to know more about how many wells have been dug under the Kapil Dhara scheme, along with a list of owners. They found that there were 75 such invisible wells. After uniting with the other owners and jointly protesting against the theft of their wells to the police station and then to the irrigation minister. The ahead of the elections, the minister then threatens the police officer, Mr. Reddy. Mr. Reddy alerts Balamma and her husband about the theft of the well. Balamma is quite upright. Okay, so she has been protesting against her husband's actions right since inception, but no, her husband doesn't listen. Here you can see Balamma, her husband, and the police informing them about the theft. So Reddy, so Reddy, of course, uh, wants the police officer to not change the rough report of the theft to an official report, or else he would land up in the mental hospital at Jalna. The police officer, Mr. Reddy, that is this person, he finds out from the MPDO's office that Arman Ali applied for the construction of the well on June 15. The first installment was approved on June 19th. The second came by July 5th. The third came by July 20th. And by the 30th of July, the well was ready. Mr. Reddy said that the well was never dug, but he was shown the photos of the well constructed as evidence. So Mr. Reddy wants the photographer. Um, the sub engineer and his wife prepare for their honeymoon I mean, they pack clothes and they are about to leave when Mr. Reddy, this police officer, comes to interrogate about the well. Sakina's mother encourages Arman to get Muskan married to a sheikh in Dubai or Abu Dhabi. The sub engineer is summoned back from his honeymoon. The irrigation, that is because the irrigation minister would be visiting, which he did because he wanted to see the well. The photographer there um, gives gilded frames of photo edited pictures of the minister with Gandhiji and the US President, the then US President Obama, and requests election publicity work. Now, the minister promises to expose the culprit, but this is an important scene where Arman um, vows in front of the crowd that he would now drink water only from his well. Muskan and Arif also join him in this vow. And Arman watches the debate in the assembly on TV. And both of them, that is Arman and Muskan, wonder how long they would have to remain thirsty. Both the Now, before the opposition party could pass a no confidence motion, the irrigation minister now takes an ultimate step. He orders all the wells to be constructed within 4 days. So 75 wells were constructed within 4 days, and it is done in practice, including Arman's well. So this is the well, and here they drink water and they find the water is sweet. So Arman wants to Muskan to get married. Sakina's letter to her mother mentions her complaint that her sheikh husband has only been beating her in Sharjah and threw her out of his house. And the Indian embassy there was trying to return her home. So this frightens Arman. Arman meets Meherban, a garage owner, who tells Arman that he is ready to get his adopted son Arif to marry Muskan. So he tells Arman that Arif was found unattended during the riots. And since he was so little, he did not feel like leaving him there. But he does not even know whether Arif is a Hindu or a Muslim. But Arman doesn't mind this. So the wedding happens a few days after the well is constructed. So this is the wedding. After the well is constructed, the irrigation minister confers awards upon the corrupt officers for the construction of the well. And he gives a nice grand lecture. And soon, as you can see, the stage collapses. This is a very symbolic scene, particularly during the photo session. So Arman Ali stays in the lockup for an hour because he confesses to in the police station that he had lied to get his BPL certificate. He asks the police officers to give him a certain punishment, so he is put in the lockup for an hour. And after that, of course, he returns to Mumbai. So that's where his narrative ends, and so ends the film. Now, there are some key takeaways here. As you can see, um, this is full of biting satire. It highlights what kind of a system um, the government has and what kind of a red tapeism is evident here. How people try to take advantage of somebody else's helplessness. If we remain honest, then there are times when the honesty costs a lot of efforts and money and pain. Um, Sorry about that sentence, but that is how this is it. I mean, uh, thank you so much for listening. There are certain things I wanted to mention before I just end my presentation. Number one, Well Done Abba is full of puns, as you can see even in the title. Well done is, it's about the construction of the well. So the well is constructed, so the well is done. Um, and of course, Well Done Abba is also a phrase in the film wherein Muskan finds that that her father has learned to become assertive. Being honest is a good idea, but then being assertive is more important. Um, there are certain other things, for example, the kind of um, ambitions that people have. For example, Muskan is a 12th standard student and she wants to go to college, she wants to go to the university, and nobody around her, I mean, in her locality, would want a bride of that kind. So this is again a biting satire. There are others that will come up during the course of our discussion. So thank you for listening so patiently.
Thank you, Monali. Very nice, very comprehensive. Um, I watched the film for the first time actually yesterday. You know, I hadn't seen it before. Such a sweet film, so charming, so the rural simplicity, the ignorance, the dumbness, all that has come through so beautifully. Um, there are going to be lots of nice things to say about this film. Lots of realizations of all the issues that have been raised and discussed, right? Shall I put in a slight negative thing here at the start? I'm afraid. Did you at all think that the execution of the film, the way the film is a little not quite up to the professional standards of Shyam Benegal? I mean, I thought there was, of course, it's very simple and it is meant to be, but a little contrived, and the sets and the costumes and all that, as if it is an amateur filmmaker working on a low budget. I mean, you can tear me to pieces and say no right now.
Mm.
Mhm.
In fact, in the beginning, sometime I did mention that the narration is more theatrical rather than cinematic. So yes, it's a very. I was trying to mint my words here. It seems like a low budget film. There's no doubt about it, and a lot of things that could have been shown in other ways have been cut down because. Number one, a lot of issues have been packed in social, political, economic. That is number one. Secondly, Shyam Benegal's movies are typically not so full of dialogues, uh, and comedy is not his style. Usually his films are very serious. There are minimal dialogues. There's more to show rather than to say or speak. So that is typically Shyam Benegal. So this is not a typical film of Shyam Benegal for that matter. But two films of his, one is Welcome to Sajjanpur, which is an extraordinary comedy. That and this one are meant to sort of point fingers at certain things that he thought should be packed up in a comedy rather than a serious film, because he is always put into this category of parallel cinema,
Yes.
which many people don't like watching, saying that when we see a movie, we want to unwind, we want more entertainment rather than we don't want to think about it. It's all right if we can put our brain aside and think. We want a willing suspension of disbelief. So there were certain things, for example, even the depiction of the well. I thought it is not impossible to show a well in a village, but this seemed to me like a set. And yes, maybe it's limited budget. Also, in case if we look at the issues that are brought in, these are ever more relevant in the present day. I think the focus of the film was more on the issues rather than
Of
what
course.
should be the cinematic value. I think that is what dominated the narration of the film as well. So it in today's day, in case if Shyam Benegal was to make uh, such a production, he would have probably chosen something like a web series, something in 3 or 4 parts, and not pack it in just a 2-hour film. as he has done. And maybe that is the reason why there is it seemed to me like plenty of editing, very quick scenes. The scenes are short, they are crisp, and then it seems flippant at times. But of course, even within those dialogues, within those remarks, particularly those made by Salma and Rahman, a lot of chorus is present in the film. It seemed to me like a comedy, uh, uh, a theatrical comedy with a chorus, and it sort of tells the audience a lot of things that they may have not thought about
But that's
otherwise.
what I was using the word contrived, because it's like, okay, he's made this point. Now he wants to move on to the next point. A little
Yes.
abrupt, and I mean, it is not the standard that you would expect from Shyam Benegal, I felt. So it is, of course, full of humor. And it's like watching Panchayat or
Yes.
Malgudi. You have to get used to that pace and those people and then appreciate what you see. So that does happen here. But yeah, I don't want to make too much noise about this. But yes, this is not of the caliber that one expects of Shyam Benegal, but a very, very socially conscientious film and wonderful, points. Like, I love it that Sakina, who marries the rich bloke, ends up with a bad deal on her hands. And you can see, the brain machinery in Arman Ali working, saying, this is what happened. Then she doesn't wear a burqa. Hmm? Ever. And like he honestly says, I've never seen her in a burqa. And Arif, uh, his background is unknown. So it's like a
Yes.
Kabir kind of character. Could be Hindu, could be Muslim. Oh, I loved that. Absolutely. So these are great. He sends so many good messages, through this film. Absolutely. Okay, open to everybody. Come on.
You say, Mo, that it
Mhm.
is a lighter touch. Yes, it is a lighter touch. But he is saying a lot more in this film than many of his earlier films. Because here you have this problem. Just a little scene about his uh, son to be son-in-law may have been a Hindu or not. Also, was he's trying to make a good film and then say that this is a good time to be there. This is nice, and that if you fight for something, you have to win it. You have to work hard and win it. Don't say, "Abhi Bhagwan dega ye kanga." Fight for it, and that's what our man does. Oh, I like that scene when he says, "Because I did something wrong, I should spend a day in jail or something like that." He does that. Yes, I like that. See, these are little things we forget. We want a big scenery, go ahead. But you're conducting it small, getting into your minds that, yes, quietly, you can get things done.
Yes, okay. Now, Latika, I think you are the queen out here. I got to hear from you. Latika organizes film festivals. She is on juries at film festivals. So, no one better than her to make a very significant comment.
I only wanted to say in general that when you
Mm.
see Benegal's films, uh, as compared to certain similar things that happen in his stories as happen in commercial cinema, somehow it comes out more meaningful and more socially relevant when he deals with an issue rather than when something the same kind of story might be in commercial film which becomes the story in commercial cinema of one man, one woman, or one family and another family. But here, like in his very first film Ankur, that issue becomes a much broader issue. So in fact, I feel that his films, because of that, become more relevant rather than just a commercial film which has a story of, let us say, a rape, or let us say, caste discrimination, or going above caste discrimination. Whatever the story is, it becomes more relevant and broader in its scope when it's in the hands of Sham. I don't know if you could say that of this one, because after all, this is also dealing with corruption, maybe in some ways lightheartedly. And the corruption is a perennial subject in Indian cinema and in Indian life.
Yes, I think he deals with reality.
Yeah.
And this is a large part of reality.
Reality, everyday reality faced by the
The
common man.
common man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yes, it's
But
open
he
for.
has he's not fully parallel cinema. Parallel cinema, which was started by really reached its peak with Manikol and Kumar Shahani. Those films you find really tough to understand.
Mhm.
Later on, in the latter half of the 70s, when some of Shyam Benegal's films were made, certain ways of dealing with cinematic language were taken up by serious filmmakers and incorporated into an otherwise more accessible storytelling mode. I mean, I don't want to call it commercial, but if you take a Manthan or Bhumika or, any of his other films, Ankur and so on, they are films that can be appreciated easily by the common man in a way the real stalwarts of parallel cinema called Manikol and Kumar Shani are
Hmm.
people not able to access that cinematic language.
Hmm.
Here they can, yet these are not commercial films in the normal sense of the word. They may have even a commercial storyline, but the approach and the treatment of the subject still remains very personal on the one hand and serious on the other hand, without having all the strings attached to commercial cinema, no song and dance and none of that, but yet very accessibly told the storyline.
Right. So I think a little bit of straddling both forms of cinema pays dividends. Yes. Now, who would like to speak next? Sanjay, would you like to?
Hi, can you hear me? Am I
Yes.
audible?
Yes.
Hi, good evening.
Good
Yeah,
evening.
so of course, I agree with what Moini said. It is a little contrived. But having said that, it still remains a delightful little film. I quite enjoyed it.
Hmm.
What I didn't understand, one was the relevance of the brother and his wife. I mean, why were those characters needed in the story?
I mean, is it contrast, Monali? What would you say? They're twins, they're twin brothers. So the
Yes.
contrast that two boys from the same family, but one can be like this and one can be like that, you know?
Perhaps
So
maybe
in
that may be the
yes,
idea. Yeah.
Mm.
in one case, of course, Rahman Ali is a foil to Arman Ali. That is quite evident. Arman Ali is very honest. Rahman Ali goes about stealing goats and hens and whatever.
Yeah, has no
But
Mhm.
conscience at all.
yes,
Mm.
and as I had mentioned earlier also, Rahman Ali and Salma stand somewhere on the side and give their comments. Like, for example, there's a point
For
when
respect.
Arman Ali says that I'll drink water now only from my well, or else I'm not going to drink water. Now, here Salma says that, oh yes, why is he remaining thirsty? Maybe he must have forgotten to take undergo these fasts during Ramzan, so now he's making up for it. Okay, so it is supposed to be something of a humorous comment, number one, and they also give their observations as a chorus would have done in a typical Indian theater, for example. That's why I
Mm.
said that the
Actually, yes,
narration is
I
very
think
clever.
that's a very good point, Monali. It does have elements of the Nautanki in it somehow.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Haven't you ever seen Nautanki? It's a folk theater in UP, and I've seen some of it. So it does have those elements. You're right. But coming back to the film, what I liked was the dialogue was very well written. I thought that there was some really sharp work there, and what I it brought out quite clearly the normalcy of corruption in the sense that it's rampant, it's widespread, everybody is in it,
Unavoidable. Mm.
and nobody gets punished for it. That's the important point. You know,
Yes, those officers actually get rewarded, right? They're given some kind of awards
yeah,
at the end.
and it's the other thing that I liked about it is that it is entirely bereft of rancor, acrimony. you don't see those shades. Nobody gets angry in spite of all that's in an environment of exploitation and rampant corruption. You would imagine somebody would get uh, wild about it, but that doesn't
Hmm.
quite
Hey, you're right.
happen.
True,
So,
actually.
uh,
Honestly, 1 minute,
but on the
Sanjay,
whole,
I missed that point completely because even with this, when we have this, like the rivers, etc., we are having so people get so carried away. You could practically hold them down. You need to hold them down, otherwise they'll go and beat up someone or the other. Uh, I- and here we are not showing any such anger coming on. They take it lightly, etc. But I doubt any villages are doing that now. There was a time about 50 years back where they did my बाप हो. Right now, there's a tendency, no fucking माई बाप, ये हमें चाहिए. और देना है पैसा दो, वो पैसा दिया ना. You want the,
right,
well,
but Satish, my point is that I
go ahead,
mean,
go ahead.
how normal corruption is in our society. That point has been
Yes.
very well brought out, I thought.
And
And
everyone just takes it
Everywhere.
easily.
Each and every person that he has to go through
yeah,
wants something. So nothing left for him ultimately.
and
It's so
there's no sense of
disgusting.
outrage. There's no sense of hey, why the hell should I pay? Apart from that girl who raises her voice against it, but everybody else just goes along with the system. So that is, I think, again, a typically Indian situation. I also liked how we are capable of reducing everything to a ritual. All the checks and balances for the loan under that Kapila scheme, all the boxes have been ticked. And maybe because we are because of Hinduism, we are a ritualistic people. So there's nothing that we can't reduce to a ritual, perhaps. But on the whole, all said and done, I quite enjoyed the film. And in
Yeah.
spite of its shortcomings, I found it. I would recommend it to others, I would say.
Yeah.
Same here. I enjoyed the film. It is very short. It didn't have much of a story to tell, except that the Hindus and the Muslims, etc. The last bit he put it in the marriage of one of the girls. It was some King Singh or the other in Sharjah. All those are points he pressed out, but nothing very hard hitting you on the head that the religion is this and that is uh, what is calling the problem. The thing it's criminal.
No, I mean it is it's light humor. He doesn't he doesn't rile you up. He depicts something which is an everyday reality that nobody can deny, which is such a pity. But it has been the reality for so long, we are so used to it, which
I,
again is so
I know,
sad.
but remember there's some movies of his. I remember this where the women are shifted to another place, thing, and the anger that they have, all those 18, 20, 30 women, you can see it in their face that they're so angry about it. But here, too gentle anger. I don't think it is a valid thing. It's always
I mean, it depends, like Chekhov does this, he keeps it light. A story that you would think is a tragedy is a comedy with Chekhov because you have to see it from a distance. You have to, take it lightly. This is the human comedy. This is what happens. So that is the director's decision, or what framework he offers to you while telling those things. Okay, so come on, onward bound now. Mukul, Kaveri, Runa, come on. There's so many of you. Anna, Uma, I'm sure everyone has something to say. Prashant, are you still there? Dr. Sinha, are you there? No, he isn't. Okay. Yes, who's ready with the comment? Come on.
I also found it a little too light-hearted for a serious theme. I
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed the film. It was very nice. The acting was excellent. All that was good. But the treatment of the topic, the problem, I found that, I mean, I, okay, as you said, it can be treated in any way as a light-hearted thing. But I sort of felt it required a more serious, um, um, you know, uh,
Depiction. Okay.
picture.
Now, I'll
Yes.
just put it out there that maybe more people are willing to see a light-hearted comedy than a serious one talking about social problems and all that. So, is Shyam Benegal, in fact, being very clever in presenting what he wants to, but lightheartedly, so that it gets greater viewership?
But it was not meant for the light, I mean, the just entertainment value. It was meant to send a message or to depict something which is a very serious political and social problem.
Yes, yes, yes.
Who's speaking?
That was Uma. Now,
Uh,
Runa, would you like to? Come on.
I think the everyday part of it, corruption as a part of everyday life, in the pettiness. This is at a petty level. I mean,
Mm,
I would say petty level, right? So it probably it deserves this kind of treatment because as you say, like Chekhov, you have to deal with it a sort of distance because otherwise you would cry. And
mm.
if you remember his other movies, where he did make serious comment, you know, did he not also do that Mirch Masala? That
No,
was
No,
that was
that was
Ketan
Ketan
Mehta.
Mehta.
okay. Sorry,
Ketan Mehta.
and Akrosh.
Akrosh was
No,
not his
Akrosh was
either.
Amol Palekar.
No,
I
no, that
always
wasn't
somehow
his.
This
felt Akrosh was
Akrosh was
his.
Govind Nihlani, perhaps. Was it Govind
Was it? Was
Nihlani?
it? Okay.
Okay.
I think
Now,
so.
okay, but even if it wasn't Benegal, I mean, those movies were dealing with serious themes in a very serious way,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
They sort of wrenched you from the inside. Now, probably I think this is more acceptable. It's a pill which goes down better with a wider audience, and they are all made aware. Okay, this is an issue which we all have to tackle in a different way. It's not something that we sort of, as you said, somebody said, no, that it's not my bap and all that. You have to stand up for your rights, and that's the only way you will
And
get.
you
And you
can
can.
win. That's what the movie shows. You
So
can win.
resilience and resistance is very important. And I think dealing with it in a very, very heavy and serious
Emotional way.
way would probably not bring home the picture properly, I think.
Okay. Yes. Mukul, Kaveri. Kaveri.
Um, yeah, I saw it as a satire,
Hmm.
Exactly.
and therefore it had a very serious
Yeah.
theme and was presented in a tone of humor. It was satirical, it was not light-hearted in that sense, I found it. And I found Latika's comments very interesting. She's so knowledgeable about films and filmmaking. And the kind of resignation, ultimately, how much can you fight
Right.
against the impossible conditions under which rural India particularly, and some of us here who have had to fight the municipal corporation. Ultimately, it's resignation if you don't want to sort of lose your sense of balance. And I think probably this film shows that as well. I had another thought, which has nothing to do with the film. Shyam Benegal, sort of he's renowned for his how much he has done to expose social caste, power imbalance issues in so many of his films. Is this the first one where he's focused on a minority community to depict, or has he done it on Monali's shaking her head, to depict a situation where they are the major protagonists? I was wondering, because that I also thought was very nice, in depicting a typical rural India problem through the lens of a minority community. That's something which occurred to me. And finally, it's very interesting how so many advertising executives get into films and do a much better job of the films that they produce and direct than so many other filmmakers. So those are some of my thoughts.
I just wondered, Monali, what do you think? I mean, is it significant that our protagonist is Muslim? I didn't think so, really, because I thought, hey, it's the same hurdles exist for everybody. I didn't. Do you think it is?
No, that's what my point is, that though it is, it's the willingness to project the problems of rural India through the lens of the minority community, which I liked very much, because they are a neglected voice otherwise in cinema of this sort. That I thought I liked very much.
I see. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm.
Anna, I'm sure you have something to say. Anna, are you there? And Latika, you would like to say something?
Yeah, just a
Please.
general thought, nothing particular to do with this film, but a general thought. We all have spoken about the, very common nature of corruption in our
Corruption.
society. That's only one of the problems we face. Very often I ask myself, why? Not that other countries are not corrupt. I'm speaking about India.
Hmm.
Is it because we are overpopulated and therefore to get anything done, we need to be corrupt to be able to jump the queue? Is it because we all understand each other that wealth and money is important? Is it, and so asking for money to get any job done is in the nature of things? That's how it is in this country. Is it also because, and I don't want to delve too much into the varnashrams, but our second varnashram, which is the grahasthashram, where we actually, where a man or a woman grows up and has a family and they start work and they have a profession and they make money, that's all accepted in Hinduism. To be poor is not a great thing.
Not a virtue
Yeah,
by
not a
itself.
virtue. So you stay on the stage, you make your money, you do everything that I mean, some of it need not be done till you come to your vanaprasth, which is where your other generation, the younger generation, takes over, and they're on the stage, and you begin retreating. Now, the funny thing here is that when you begin retreating, both from the world and from others around you, not totally, but it's a beginning, you need not be guided by money. But today, till your death, you're guided by money. That varnashram never ends. I mean, never begins. Actually, the grahasthashram remains with you for years and years. So somehow, in spite of the great spiritual, side of our life that we push forward all the time, we can be spiritual on the one side and utterly corrupt on the other, and it doesn't seem to make a difference. Just an idea.
Comment on that. You
Good
know,
here, good here.
when you're talking about the Vanaprasth mentality, which is a giving up and which is a retreat from the material world,
Yeah, yeah.
that is something which is totally anti the culture of modern day, because
That's what I meant. Yeah, that's
you're right.
correct.
So modern day, and actually, if you go back to the perspective of history, and if you go back to our philosophy, this is Kali Yuga,
Yeah.
and Kali Yuga, yeah, Kali Yuga is the material age. It
Yeah.
is the age where materiality is most important,
Yeah.
and therefore you have to live by those rules. However, corruption is a different issue. As per the theory, the philosophy of Kali Yuga, corruption is part of it. Corruption is part of it. But corruption, I mean, between on a day-to-day basis between you and me, I mean, nothing forces us to give up our dharma, right? We have it's a person what he lives by and what is most important to him. If being righteous is important, then he will not be corrupt. Okay, he will put up, he will struggle, he will fight, and he will admit the limitations which it poses on him. But today's world is very, very material, and therefore corruption is also a way of life, and not just in our country.
And it is there
Is
everywhere.
there
I'm
in
only putting it
some
in
form or
within
the
the Indian
other,
context.
depending on the institutions. I mean, at a petty level, maybe it doesn't exist so much in better organized societies, but it exists certainly at a
It certainly
deeper
exists everywhere.
systemic
Of
No,
course
level.
it
what,
does.
what
Yeah.
do you mean a better organized society? What? How much better? And do you think there's less corruption there? There may
No,
not be corruption that you can see, but the corruption is
no,
further
that's
up and
exactly
will
what
be
I'm
higher.
trying to say, Satish. It may not be there in better organized. Well, it's very difficult to use the word. I mean, I'm using better organized. Let's take, for instance, a social welfare state in Europe. Certain basic facilities are there available for
Yeah.
people to avail of, all that. But I'm sure at higher levels, it is materialistic concerns which occur, and in a larger scale, corruption is there. It definitely has to be
It
there
is
to
there
keep up.
everywhere. It's just that
Yeah.
we flout the spiritual side of our country so much more. And then all the crores going to the Kumbh Mela
Greed.
and all that, do
Ultimately,
they
it
really
all
come out
boils down
pure?
to greed. All
So
boils down to greed.
No, I
all
think
that
I would
talk
like to
about
take up Latika's point. I think she's making a very important point. I think we are a country who like to constantly profess our superior spiritual
All the
inheritance.
time.
It does not reflect itself at all in the standards of morality and conduct. I think and I'm going to be crucified for this,
No,
but I
no,
think
I'm with
there's a
you.
moral ambiguity in our religious, I'm sorry, in our ethical systems. There were higher castes. The Brahmins were forgiven many things, which, in terms of even murder, which the other castes were not. So there has been there is no clear moral standard in our ethical or religious system. So I think it reflects itself in total ambiguity in terms of what is regarded as right and what is regarded as wrong. So it's perfectly possible for a person to go to the Kumbh Mela and take 10 dips and be the most corrupt person in the world.
Absolutely.
So these two
No, he
things
hasn't gone. He hasn't gone
exist
yet.
side
I
by
think yes.
no,
So
Mr.
all
Shah has
all
already
that
been there.
talk,
And you know that he was there and everything was shut down so that he and his family could get their VIP dips. And
Yeah.
at 28th morning, I think several bridges were closed. So he went there on the 27th. And this problem took place, of course, I think 29th early morning.
29th. Yeah.
That's why it happened.
But there was
Because he
chaos
went.
because he was
Because he
there and
went, that is
everything
the
was shut
problem
down.
today.
And, so yes, one of them has been there, certainly.
so
So,
all that talk of karma, belief in karma, it's all nonsense.
Yeah, because I don't think it plays a part.
No, but if people talk about it, they
Ah,
try to advise their children to do the right and all that, but then it stops there. It's never practiced.
yeah.
No, I
Mm.
think Kaveri makes a very good point. I think we are basically an amoral people. We really have no principles. I mean, why is it that it's only in this country
It's
that you
not.
find newly elected legislators being herded in buses and locked up in resorts? Because not one of them can be trusted. And why can't he be trusted? Because he has no principles. He's not committed to anything. He'll happily switch to the other side. It's only in this country, mind you. You have elections in so many
No.
jurisdictions.
I
It
know,
happens
no.
only here.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
very rare
I
for
don't agree.
Democrats to switch over to Republicans and vice versa. It's
No,
very
it's
rare.
where
In our country, it's endemic.
no,
It's very
Agree.
rare.
Kaveri, no, I don't agree. It is not very rare for Democrats and Republicans to change.
Very rare. Look at the percentage who have done it. It's extremely rare. Over
But
here, you have
but
wholesale
one
party
thing.
MLAs and MPs,
But let me tell you.
transferring to another
No,
political
agreed.
party.
Because that is because the rules permit it, and
Uh,
there the rules are such it doesn't make a difference. But here the thing is this I think it as a matter only of degree. The Democrats are equally corrupt. Let me tell you. Let me
no,
tell you.
no,
Deep
very
down, they
good
are part of the
point.
same system. They're
Yeah, but
part
her
of
point is of
history.
No,
switching,
I think
right?
we were starting with something. Yes, I think corruption exists everywhere.
Corruption exists
This shows
everywhere.
petty corruption, this
Yeah.
particular
They're
film.
all senior
Over there,
citizens
there's
now, and
massive
now,
scale of corruption. No,
come
we were
on.
talking about how, the spiritual and the immoral exist very happily side by
Yeah.
side.
Kali
So,
Yuga.
Okay, Monali, I
Uh,
think we
thank you.
need you to come back into the picture, respond to all these comments, and wrap up.
no, but it's interesting that the film generates this kind of
Yeah.
discussion.
Isn't
Yeah.
it? Isn't it?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
And that's why it's worth doing and presenting
yeah.
and commenting and discussing.
Hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
what's
Yes,
next on the agenda,
Monali.
Bilal?
Huh?
Uh,
What's next?
Monali is there. Huh?
yeah,
Come
I
on.
just wanted to sort of bring your attention to certain points here.
Hmm.
We did mention that there are certain abrupt endings to scenes. Now, normally, I was just contemplating as to what else could have been an alternative to such scenes. And a typical alternative would be something that's more melodramatic, where somebody starts crying. There are lengthy dialogues, there are more descriptions. So maybe Shyam Benegal wanted to avoid that, and that's how, because he wanted to make sure that this remains more entertaining and it's comic, he must have just slashed all the melodramatic dialogues, if at all they had existed. That is number one. Now, another important scene, which I did mention while I was talking about the story, was the prize giving ceremony towards the end of the film. So all the corrupt officers had received prizes from the irrigation minister. Now, what more biting a satire can we find in a film wherein somebody so corrupt is being given a prize, and then when everybody tries to scuffle next to the irrigation to secure a place next to the irrigation
So the
minister,
photograph.
so the stage collapses, which is also the collapse of the system.
Yeah.
So here it is. So there are these little things that show how Benegal is trying to point at the fact that such a system is not going to survive for a very long time.
Fate
So he's
punishes them.
quite optimistic. Yes, he's quite optimistic. He thinks that this is not going to last for a very long time. So that, it seemed to me like a very something very new in in his kind of films. Also, the fact that he has been working in an ad agency, it must have given him a different kind of a perspective. Even the narration, as I said, that yes, it is theatrical, but many a times it seemed to me like as though he's campaigning on behalf of a government ad, some kind of a government campaign. For example, this Kapil Dhara well scheme. There was another one, Indira Housing Well Scheme, and things of that kind. So he was actually trying to show how it is not like the government does not make changes or make provisions for the poor, but then the poor are still in their place, and those who should be passing this to the poor have been actually taking more advantage of it than the poor people themselves. So that's another very important point I thought I should bring home. And something which is even more important than these 2 points is staying in harmony despite differences. The fact that Arman Ali has been shown as a Muslim, there's only somewhere in the first scene that this was shown that he was the somebody in the bank tells him that, see, you belong to the minority community and so you will get an advantage. Okay, but but apart from that, he could have belonged to any other religion.
Yes.
uh, yeah, so that is one. But what is more important is staying in harmony with people who, number one, don't belong to his community. For example, Rohan Kapoor, his boss, he is on very good terms. Even if the boss really is very angry in the opening of the scene, he slowly and steadily gets convinced that these are the things that have kept him back in his village. That is
Genuine
number one.
reasons.
Yes. Also, this kind of a community and the place he belongs to gives the film its dialect. And the dialect is pretty funny. It's nice to listen to. It's sweet sometimes, but it's quite funny. Also, a very typical Indian mentality is to own private property. Okay, and
Mm.
here when I say own private property, you will never find your bosses traveling in buses and trains. You will always find them traveling in cars. So here Rohan Kapoor wants to travel to Pune. He does not take a train or a bus. He has to travel in his private car. Similarly, Arman wants to reduce the water shortage of his village, but wants to do that by owning a private well. So it is not a kind of well that everybody would be able to take advantage of. I mean, of course, later on, of course, we know that there are 75 other such wells of 75 other such owners who would also get the benefit of that lost phantom well. That's fine. But then
Um,
owning private property comes in time and time again. So
yeah, but
even
well,
Rahman Ali wants to have his own
I
house,
mean,
but Arman Ali
Monali,
says, okay, you look after mine. Okay, so
yeah,
these are
but
certain
no,
things
if he wants to help his village by
yeah.
creating more wells so that there's more water availability, what else could he have done other than get his own, get a well on his land?
Yes, but that is not available to, I don't think that's available to everybody.
Oh,
Like
but so
that,
I
yes,
suspect he's going to be very generous with that water. You remember the bloke
let's
who
hope.
asked for water and his daughter says, no, I'm not going to. Well,
Yeah,
if he had a well, he would jolly well give the water.
yes,
So
yes,
I think he
probably.
means
But
it to
this,
be.
yeah, but this owning of private property or keeping things to ourselves is a very typical mentality that he's taking a very light dig at, but he does address this issue. It seemed to me like that.
Okay, if you say so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now, shall we wind up, folks?
Yes.
Any other comments coming
No.
Monali's way? Anything else? Hmm?
No.
No,
Okay.
that's okay.
So, Monali, thank you because this was so appropriate. You
For
know,
today's times.
Benegal
Yeah.
passing away. I mean, it came as a shock. So, and these are always occasions when one stops and looks back, and you look at the body of his work. So much he has contributed to cinema. These very valid, very significant, very relevant, very meaningful cinema that he has given us. So thank you for doing this in a very timely way. I mean, doing Shyam Benegal a year later is also good, but doing it at this moment was perfect. So I want to thank you for offering to do it and coming up trumps with it too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for this
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thank
opportunity.
you.
Monali.
And we're going to see more of Monali. She's quite the film expert. She's
Hey,
going to
Mo, I think we made a little mistake. We should have called it the people who are related to him, who has made that film, remember?
oh, Rahul and Praful.
Rahul would have come.
Rahul would have come. Yes.
Would
Oh
have
my
with him.
God. What a pity we're thinking of it now.
Too.
Rahul
Sorry,
Ali, I
I'm
think
looking.
you thought
Shyam
about this film before he passed away, right? You were said you would present it. That was before he passed away.
No, it was after.
No,
It
it
was
was
immediately after. It was immediately after. It was,
Okay.
I mean, Monali and I were talking and she offered, and I thought, oh, yes, let's do it
Okay.
now. Otherwise, you see, offers that volunteers come in, I
Yeah.
usually put them sequentially. So it would be later. But I've popped Monali in at this
Okay.
point to be, as soon
Yes.
as,
So it's a
we,
great tribute to him.
it is.
yes.
This is our tribute to him and the wonderful cinema he's given us. So, Monali, thank you very much. And thank you,
Um,
everybody who came, who saw the movie, who commented.